Are you thinking about changing careers but feeling intimidated about the education and licensure associated with well-paying jobs? Exactly how much grunt work does it take to get the gratification of a new career making at least 6 figures? We did the math on the grunt to grat ratio for you, with 10 jobs you wouldn't expect to be well-paying, and the details on what it takes to land the position in this episode of the infographic show, 10 surprisingly high-paying jobs. Number 10. Railroad conductor. Did you know that in the US, professional railroad conductors are still around? Neither did we, but they exist and they cash in some areas. The national median salary is just $54,000, but it does go all the way up to $104,000. The grunt is working your way up in a dying industry and learning on the job without many mentors or companies to choose from. You're away from home for long periods of time, but the grat is you get to see the country in an old-timey kind of way, you get to feel like that kid you once were with your first train set, and you can avoid the 9 to 5 and tell corporate America to kiss your caboose. All aboard! Number 9. Crab fishermen. Tolerating the miserable work of capturing crab through terrifying squalls for 5 figures per month was popularized by Discovery Channel's reality series The Deadliest Catch. Even negotiating the dynamic between the personalities on board seems treacherous enough to think twice. But in recent years, changing safety regulations have made fishing for Dungeness crab more doable. There is also an after-season for other kinds of crab, as well as fish. All said and done, you can still clear $200,000 a year after a few years' experience. The grunt work is working your way up, because there is no school for crab fishing. You have to find a crew you trust and respect to show you the ropes for when you start as a deckhand. And you'll be away from home and leave your loved ones behind to worry. The grat is having a non-traditional career and 6 figures to roll hard on in your few days on land. Number 8. Building inspector. It's not super scintillating, but if you're good with checklists and you have a mind for structural engineering, working for a city government inspecting buildings could bring home 6 figures. The grunt part is working your way up in the kind of large bureaucracy that is a major US city that is big enough to pay at least $68,000 per year and all the way up to $117,000 per year. It's also highly specialized, so you'll give up other career tracks, and there are a few months of studying for a standardized exam. But the grat is a well-paying job with predictable days and permanent demand for your skills. Number 7. Egg donor. Here is one for the ladies. It can be lucrative, but it has its dilemmas. And it's not really a job, as in an existing role in any company, but an opportunity you can make your full-time gig if you're really determined to get some cash. The grunt is altering your cycle, feeling like a human petri dish, and the whole ethical conundrum of creating a human you'll never meet. But the grat is up to $14,000 per cycle, so you could, if you go on back-to-back cycles and take 2 months off, clear about $140,000 in a year. Number 6. Anesthesiologist. Anesthesiologists, in their quiet bedside role near the superstar surgeon, look like some kind of low-level nurse or technician. They're actually doctors, and they make bank. The grunt is med school like any other doctor. That's completing a 4-year degree, doing the MCAT preparation to take the standardized exam to get into a decent medical school, then going through 4 years of medical school and 4 years of residency that actually comprise a 1-year internship plus a 3-year residency. Some anesthesiologists do additional residencies beyond those 12 years mandatory and then have to study and take the board exam to become board certified. That board certification is an important credential to earn the trust involved in taking someone safely through a major surgery and recovery. But then the grat is you make more than a family doctor, general practitioner, pediatrician, or psychiatrist does. That is, anesthesiologists take home, on average, $294,811. That is a national average. In larger US cities, their annual salary is in the $400,000 to $500,000 range. Number 5. Write for the federal government. A writer-editor for the State Department, in which you don't do any foreign policy analysis or speechwriting, but analyze communication documents and systemic functions of the department itself, grosses you $95,000 to $123,000 per year. If you'd like to do something similar for the Department of Energy and recommend standards for documentation for adults and other reports, you could start as low as $79,000 but also go up to $123,000. The grunt is working your way up in a dull bureaucracy and memorizing templates and standards and learning to speak bureaucratese. The grat is the money, the great benefits, and the job security. Number 4. Longshoreman. This job loading and unloading ship cargo at large ports is of course only available if you're near a big port like Houston, Los Angeles, Long Beach, or New York, or are willing to move. But you might be willing for the money. There is no education requirement, just experience. West Coast longshoremen average $98,000 according to shippingwatch.com, but with overtime and union power to play hardball on negotiations, that salary gets north of $100,000. And an LA Times analysis in 2015 showed over half of longshoremen made over $100,000, while foremen and managers topped $200,000. A few bosses get $300,000 and all get free healthcare. A New York longshoreman makes at least $124,000 with another round of negotiations coming up in 2018. The grunt is working your way up and the intense physical labor with never-ending stacks of cargo waiting to be moved. But the grat is the cash, the healthcare, and holding one of the few jobs that globalization actually needs. Number 3. Mine operator underground. It's not for you if you're scared of tight spaces, and it's not glamorous, literally digging around in the dirt. And there's this coal miner image out in the pop culture lexicon of being, well, white trash. But you can laugh all the way to the bank because if you're willing to work underground, you'll clear $150,000 to $165,000. The grunt is learning the trade on the job, the danger, the dirt, and taking such a specific career track that it doesn't prepare you for much else, but the grat is the earnings. And while automation continues to improve mining, you're not being replaced by a robot quite yet. That is, you will be in demand for a while. Number 2. City employees, at least those of affluent towns. You can actually make more than $143,000 without any education requirements in some cities like Santa Monica, but we picked the silliest job in that particular city that pays 6 figures: farmers market manager. In fact, 105 City of Santa Monica workers cleared over $300,000 in 2016 to the horror of watchdog blog Transparent California. The city's global cash and resulting steady stream of tourists produce high occupancy taxes, that is, the city's share of hotel bills, and parking taxes, filling city coffers and boosting salaries for all jobs. The grunt is a dull bureaucratic job, and perhaps your nagging conscience if you happen to be the assistant city librarian bringing home $220,000 or occupying another overpaid post. The grat is, well, you're overpaid, and you're in sunny Santa Monica or another rich city living large. Number 1. Firefighter. Running into burning buildings and maintaining the fitness level to regularly charge flights of stairs. Maybe not? Think again. It has its advantages. Salary vary by city and position, but in major cities like New York and LA, you'll clear 6 figures. You'll make at least $121,000 from day one in Los Angeles, but in New York you'll have to work for 5 years to get to $110,000 as a low-level firefighter. But then you get promoted on your way to chief and earn more at each level, over $300,000 in some fire departments. The grunt is you're working in fire, putting yourself in danger, worrying about your coworkers, dealing with deeply distressed people who are watching their homes and offices burning, and you're also a paramedic, meaning you have to see terrible injuries from violence and witness other human loss. But you work days at a time and then have chunks of time free so you can travel and buy toys with the 6 figures you're earning with solid job security. And you get to contribute to your community and truly help people every time you go to work. Backed by popular demand is another list of high-paying jobs that you may not have known were so lucrative. According to US Census Bureau data, just over 20% of American households bring in over $100,000 a year. If that's a target you aspire to hit, then listen closely to this show. The list we have compiled, similar to our previous surprisingly high-paying jobs list, will consist of the pros and cons of each job. We'll also include some details of how you can end up working in these jobs and start living large on your 6-figure salary. We say living large, but in some parts of the USA, $100,000 alone, according to research, will cover only life's necessities if you desire to join the ranks of the middle class. Join us on this tour of employment in this episode of the Infographic Show, 10 Surprisingly High-Paying Jobs, Part 2. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell button so that you can be part of our notification squad. Number 10. Air Traffic Controller. How would you like to have the lives of hundreds of people in your hands every day? Well, if you become an air traffic controller, you can do just that. It's well known to be a stressful job, and that's one of the reasons mandatory retirement is at 56 years old. You'll be paid well, with the median salary in 2016 being $122,410 per year. Although a university degree would help, you can land the job, excuse the pun, and be employed without one. Not surprisingly, you'll have to pass a lot of background tests and also pass exams after taking a course at the Federal Aviation Administration Academy. Number 9. Garbage collector. You'll know from our show on the most dangerous jobs that being a garbage collector is not only sometimes smelly, but leads to an early grave for scores of Americans each year. That's why you get paid the big bucks. The US Bureau of Labor has the average wage for refuse collector at just $37,690, which can go up to more than $60,000. But hold on, do this same job in New York City and you could be earning 6 figures according to a recent story by CNN. It interviewed 2 high school dropouts, both making $112,000 and $100,000 as a driver and collector respectively. To get the job, you are required to have done some high school, but no formal qualifications are needed. You will of course need to learn the ropes, and once that's done, you're good to go. Number 8. Equities trader. No university degree? No problem. In fact, this is one of many jobs in which autodidacts, people who teach themselves, can earn lots of cash. Employment site Glassdoor states that most equities traders earn in the region of $70,000 to $80,000 a year. But according to a financial careers website, that wage is a starting wage, and once you get going, you could easily be earning more than $150,000 a year. You may need to take an internship or an analyst program, but a degree is not required if you are self-taught and have a good knowledge of how finance and the economy work. Math and business acumen will help too. You may also need to get a license from the National Association of Securities Dealers to start trading. Number 7. Butler. Have you ever fancied a job working in a Downton Abbey kind of environment? Being a butler might not be for some, but if you are going to work at the side of the super rich, you get paid well for it. Not surprisingly, many butlers are trained in the UK but then head back to places like New York City, and you might be paid a wage of over $100,000. You will also usually get free food, a roof over your head, and sometimes a car. According to the International Butler Academy, age is not important, and surprisingly, neither is background. All you're required to take their intensive 10-week course is a working knowledge of English and a service-oriented attitude. You'll study etiquette and butler protocol, and then after that, if you pass, you are on your way to donning a pair of white gloves and talking posh. According to the Academy, your first year on the job you'll earn around $59,000, but with experience, that can reach $153,000. Who knew Jeeves was such a high roller? Number 6. Ethical hacker. What's an ethical hacker, you might ask? It's someone who was hired by a company to see if their system is penetrable. As you know, hackers are often people who didn't take the formal route in educating themselves. Some of them go to the dark side, known as black hats, and some hack for the common good, white hats. To be an ethical hacker and be employed by a company, you may need certification if you are not already well known for your hacking skills. There are tests you can take, but those can be taken without formal training. The test should take about 4 hours. If you pass, you'll start off on at least $76,000 a year, but according to employment websites, that can go up to $152,000 once you prove your worth. According to one ethical hacker, the worst thing about the job is telling your customer they have already been hacked and all their clients' data is vulnerable. Number 5. Private investigator. This is perhaps the most exciting and intriguing job on this list, but how would you ever get into this profession? Well, it helps if you are an ex-cop, not only because of the skills you have honed, but also because of access to information and knowing the right people. According to the Criminal Justice Degree School, you don't need any formal qualifications, but you may need to take a PI course, get a license to practice, have background checks, and get yourself a firearms license. According to the same site, you might start on just over $45,000 a year, but that could soon become $85,000. Get in with the rich and famous, and who knows what you could earn. Number 4. Nuclear power reactor operator. This job can be hazardous given that you're working with nuclear power, and that's one of the reasons why the wage is pretty high. You don't, however, require a degree to land the job. You may have to do some technical school, or start at the bottom of a nuclear plant and work your way up. You may need a high school diploma, but this job is mainly about on-the-job training. Most websites state the yearly salary to be from $50,000 to $80,000, but you could potentially earn over $100,000, especially if you work in the private sector. Number 3. Submarine chef. If you don't want to work in a nuclear plant, what about being a nuclear submarine chef? In the US, the Navy will even teach you how to cook after you've spent 9 weeks in Navy boot camp. The British Royal Navy's website has the starting wage at around $60,000, but one article in the Australian media stated that with 6 years experience, a senior chef can be earning over $140,000 US dollars. Glassdoor has the average US wage for this job at $111,000 with tips and bonuses on top of that. If you can handle it, this is how you could earn good cash. There isn't even too much you can spend it on while you're at work. Number 2. Professional snuggler. Yes, you heard that right. At Snuggle Buddies in the US, they tell you don't need any qualifications for this job. Most of their snugglers or cuddlers are female, and most of their clients are men over the age of 50. You just need to be 18 or over and able to make people feel loved in your warm embrace. You'll get $60 an hour for your efforts, and you can add a 10 to 20% tip to that. If you can build a large client list and work 8 hours a day, that's $480 a day. But you'd have to travel, so let's say you work 4 hours a day for $240 a day. That's $1,200 a week, $4,800 a month, and $57,600 a year, with maybe another 10 grand in tips. That's not too bad for snuggling. Number 1. Sommelier. Tasting wine or just knowing all about wine and making a living out of it might be one of the best jobs in the entire world. If you can pass the incredibly hard exam, you'll be given the title of Master Sommelier. After that, you could be on your way to being paid $150,000 a year according to the Guild of Sommeliers Salary Survey of 2014. The exam is so hard, people sometimes take it 6 times, and even documentaries have been made about its difficulty. Nonetheless, even an advanced sommelier will earn in the region of $70,000 to $80,000 a year. You don't need any formal qualifications, occupations, but you will need to read and study wine and pass exams to get your certification.
In part 3 of our search for surprisingly high-paying jobs, we look at the occupations that could land you over $40,000 a year and much, much more. Most of these occupations you probably wouldn't have thought about as a career path, and hardly any would be mentioned by your career guidance counselor. But each of these unique positions offers you a way to pay the bills and carve out a career on a less trodden path. Some of these occupations require formal qualifications, and others just require a desire and passion or a quirky interest. So without further ado, let's see which career paths will lead to a surprisingly lucrative future with 10 surprisingly high-paying jobs. Part 3. Number 10. Professional mermaid. A professional mermaid can earn up to $250 an hour. Not bad cash for looking beautiful inside a mermaid suit. Qualifications include the ability to swim and having the required look for mermaiding. Mermaiding is a relatively new profession, with some of the first professional mermaids, such as Hannah Mermaid, making a splash on the international mermaid scene around 2004. Mermaiding is sometimes referred to as water ballet and is not to be confused with modern synchronized swimming. No formal qualifications are required, and potential mermaids should keep in mind this is definitely not a long-term career. As mermaids age, they generally find work more difficult to find on the open seas. Number 9. Professional psychics. $41,000. One position that seems to weather the storms of financial insecurity is that of the supernatural fortune teller. With no formal education or qualifications required, you will, however, need to have acquired the basics of showmanship and build a following of firm believers ready to trust your every word. Armed with a crystal ball or a set of tarot cards, you'll be able to map out the future for your clients and put them at ease in times of emotional or financial stress. With such supernatural powers at their disposal, we expect many in this profession also play the stock market on the side, and they just keep reading fortunes for fun, right? Number 8. Embalmer. One of the world's oldest known professions can see you netting $46,000 a year for dressing stiffs. You will be required to prepare the deceased before burial in accordance with the wishes of relatives. Advantages of this occupation are that you'll never find work drying up, as people have a habit of dying quite regularly. The disadvantages are it's just really kinda creepy, and talking about occupations on first dates might be a no-no. Embalmers are not required to hold any undergraduate or postgraduate qualifications, and usually enter the profession through a family mortician business. Number 7. Soil conservationist. As an expert in turf and soil with a median salary of $66,000, this position guarantees getting your hands on some really dirty cash. Your roles in this earthly position will be the development of plans to prevent erosion and implement practices for sustainable land use. You'll perform land surveys within the agriculture, forestry, and fishing sectors. Most people who enter into the field of soil conservationist will have an undergraduate degree in agricultural science or environmental studies, and will be simply nuts about soil, mud, and the ways of the land in general. Number 6. Clinical ethicist. With an average salary of $72,385, this position deals with contentious medical issues such as stem cell research and euthanasia. Medical issues that spill over into the political and religious arena require independent experts to weigh up issues and provide unbiased input. This contribution helps patients, doctors, and loved ones to resolve complex issues. Postgraduate studies in medical ethics and some experience in a medical field will open the door to this interesting and complex position in the medical industry. Number 5. Airplane Repo Man. From $10,000 to $100,000 per airplane can be earned by the repo man who collect aircraft. The owner has fallen behind on payments. He's been sent a number of warnings, and it's time to call in the repo man. This job is so totally cool, the Discovery Channel made a show about it. Airplane Repo follows the repossession agents hired by financial institutions to recover aircraft from those who fall behind on their payments. You'll probably need some expert working knowledge of aircraft for this position, be able to fly, and have enough courage to apply for a position in the A-team to boot. Number 4. Voiceover artists. These guys can earn from $50,000 to $80,000 per year. Voiceover, also known as off-camera or off-stage commentary, is a production technique used in radio, television, filmmaking, theater, video games, and animation. The only qualifications you'll need for this position are a good, clear reading voice and the ability to read and comprehend sometimes complex and difficult texts. No formal studies are required, and you can practice and publish your work on a social media platform such as a YouTube channel. Number 3. Interostomal therapist. This position could net you up to $85,000 a year and requires a specific skill that is in demand yet might be considered a little bit disgusting. To apply, you'll have to be from a medical field and be expert in the cutting of the small intestine through the abdomen. You will then, with shirt sleeves rolled up, create an opening through the abdominal wall and the intestine through which fecal matter will drain into a feeding tube. Still interested? The operation is required in severe cases of abdomen wounds and with diseases such as cancer and Crohn's disease. The interostomal therapist will be required to take care of post-surgery matters and educate the patient on a further care program. Applicants are required to have themselves a strong stomach and an associate's or bachelor's degree along with nursing certifications. Number 2. Flavorists. Flavorists create, as you would imagine, flavors and can earn up to $100,000 per year. Sounds pretty sweet, no? Also known as a flavor chemist, a flavorist engineers artificial and natural flavors to add to food products. The tools at your disposal will be similar to those used by perfumers, except your ingredients will need to be fit for human consumption. Educational requirements for this profession are varied, but normally a good degree in chemistry, biology, or food science is required. That said, most training is done on the job in an apprentice environment. Number 1. Prosthodontists. This position can earn up to $197,000 per year and involves, according to the BLS, replacing missing teeth and other natural and acquired deformation of the mouth and jaw to restore and maintain oral function, such as chewing and speaking, and to improve appearance. This is the highest paying of our surprisingly high-paying occupations. Only around 430 prosthodontists exist in the USA, making this position a surprisingly lucrative one to move into. Individuals wishing to specialize in prosthodontics will have graduated from dental school, plus complete a postgraduate program in prosthodontics. We don't need to tell you that some teenagers have made a lot of money, but the richest have done so mainly because they became celebrities through music or acting or even YouTube. Some teens have even made a small fortune as entrepreneurs. But today, we're going to talk about what you might call normal jobs. Things that the average teen can do while working through the summer or doing part-time work as they study. Jobs that you could do and make a bit of spending money. We'll focus mainly on the USA, as that's where most of the English language articles on this subject have been written. But perhaps there might be similar jobs in other parts of the world that pay also as well. Welcome to this episode of The Infographic Show, highest paying jobs for teenagers. Let's start with summer jobs for teens. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, these days only 40% of American teens take a summer job, which is way down from the early 90s when it was 60%. Are American teens getting lazier, or do they just have better ways of making a buck? That we don't know, but do know what jobs pay a decent wage. Tutor. This could be a summer job, but it could also be a regular part-time job. You obviously must be talented to earn the big bucks. But if you can show some acumen for tutoring and have a very good educational background, a young tutor can rake in $30 to $40 an hour. Even the average wage is $20 an hour, and that's not bad at all. It's likely that 18-year-olds will get the higher wages, but if you're talented at a particular subject and you can help someone else, there's no reason someone younger couldn't earn some good money. You could also do this through websites such as Enroll or SameSpeak, teaching English, but the pay isn't as good as sitting down with someone in your own private lesson. Still, if you're 16 or older, you can get up to $20 an hour tutoring online. Working the phones. What if you don't have any kind of special academic talent? U-Haul says if you are 16, have a USB headset, and a decent internet connection, you can work for them as a seasonal center sales reservation agent. You'll be helping customers on the phone from your house. You'll start on $10 an hour and be paid throughout your 4-week training. You can also get bonuses which will drive the wage up. Caddy. Forbes tells us that you can start caddying at just 14 years old. It might help to be a golfer yourself, of course, but if caddies are in demand and you know a little bit about golf, maybe you could land this job if you are presentable and fairly fit. We're told that if you carry 2 bags around the course over 18 holes, you get around $120, and it usually takes about 4 hours to complete a round. But that $120 for staying in shape if you walk the course and watching a beautiful game could be much more, as you'll be getting tips. And golfers on some courses are certainly not short of cash. One New Jersey course offering a job online as we write this says, "Our caddies are mostly high school-aged boys and girls working at perhaps their first job. They live and go to school locally. Some are on local high school golf teams. What a fun way to spend a summer." Landscaping. It was a job for the entrepreneurial teen of the past, and it still is today. While some landscaping work requires a certain degree of skill and experience to be left alone doing it, teens will be allowed to learn on the job or can be hired to do the hard labor. The average wage when landscaping with a company for a teen is about $12. But why not set up your own and start mowing all those lawns in the neighborhood? The Bureau of Labor Statistics tells us the median wage for a residential lawn mowing right now is $13.31 per hour. Forbes says it's closer to $20, but you must know that you'll be spending some cash on fuel and maintenance. You'll need a mower, and the folks in the neighborhood will have to trust you somewhat before they let you loose on their garden. The American lawn is a much talked about topic these days, with Scientific American asking in 2017, why do Americans place so much importance on lawn maintenance? Well, the short answer is lawns are all about status, and the bigger the better if you want to be admired or envied. Mowers of America, your job is safe. Caregiver. If taking care of grass isn't your thing, why not take care of something with a pulse? Did you know that you can become a caregiver at just 16 years old? You could just be hanging out with the aged, bringing them their food or doing their errands, and for that we're told you'll be getting around $10 an hour. Good old hard labor. You can work on a construction site as a laborer as young as 16 years old, and you might get paid as much as $20 an hour. Or what about becoming a weed trimmer? We're talking about marijuana, not pesky unwanted weeds. There are people online talking about doing this and how they made fast cash during the weed trimming season. It's best if you get a job where you're paid by the pound, as those jobs pay more. You can also work through the season in places such as California and Las Vegas and earn about $13 an hour. Then there are fruit picking summer jobs all over the United States. One writer talks about apple picking, saying, in bumper years when labor is short, growers pay up to $28 per bin, and they say experienced workers can fill one bin per hour. Lifeguard. If all that sounds like too much hard work, you could always become a lifeguard. You can start this job when you are 15. You'll probably need to have a background check, be able to meet all the physical requirements set by the American Lifeguard Association, and be certified by the American Red Cross in first aid. This job usually pays about $9.25 an hour to start. And you might remember that it's not all about sitting around the pool or at the waterfront. You could also be asked to pick up trash throughout the day and do other cleaning or maintenance jobs. You can earn more cash if you're experienced, and you might get as much as $16 an hour. Float away. What about being a lifeguard on a cruise ship and sailing the high seas? We must say that 18 is the minimum age for the jobs we looked at, but if you're willing to get on board, you can travel and most of the money you make is saved. One website writes, these positions pay between $600 and $950 per week. That's between $9,600 to $15,200 in income in 4 months. You could also be a dishwasher or deckhand. You really don't need any experience for these jobs. You might work 12-hour days, 7 days a week, and you might get homesick, but when you do get home after the summer, you'll have cash in the bank. Taking care of animals. You could become a pet sitter or dog walker in the US as a teenager. You could either go through an agency or just set up by yourself. You can be as young as 14 for this job. But if you know the people you're working for, perhaps they'll allow you to do the pet duties at an even younger age. You might need to check the United States Department of Labor website to see if your area requires that you have a certificate so you can work. But many young folks do this job. The website PayScale tells us that dog walkers in the USA earn anything from $9.72 to $23.99 an hour. If you love animals, what job could be better? The Guardian in the UK says dog walkers earn a fifth more than the average UK salary, but work less than half the average hours. The newspaper also says it can be hard work, with the dog walker often doing 197 walks a month. That's a lot of walking, but imagine how good that is for your health. It's like being paid to exercise. Babysitter. This is one job available to most teens, at least if they're reliable and can show they are trustworthy and good with kids. It might help if you've done something such as the Red Cross safety class. Forbes tells us babysitters can get an average of $13.44 per hour in the USA, and that's not too bad for a teenager. A recent survey by Urban Sitter, however, said that the average is a little on the low side. It said most families in the US now pay $16.43 an hour to watch over one kid, $18.86 per hour for 2 kids, and $20.56 per hour for 3 kids. Of course, it all depends on the neighborhood. You can imagine you'd get paid a good rate for taking care of little Maxima Chan Zuckerberg. Blame the referee, but he's only 12. How about being a referee? You'll probably be doing kids games, but there's no shortage of them. Of course, you'll need to know the sport inside out, but that's not so unusual for some young sports fanatics. You'll also likely have to take a course and get some certification, but that might just be a one-day course. The best thing, depending on where you work, is you can be as young as 12 or 14 in the USA. The wage all depends on the location and what teams are involved. Still, you can earn anything from $15 to $30 an hour as a young referee. It can be a tough job though. In 2018, one report in the UK media talks about a 15-year-old referee who during a game was subjected to abusive, intimidating, disrespectful, and very inappropriate language by the other team's coach and training staff. That was an adult amateur game, so he could have been paid anywhere from $26 to $52 for that game, according to numbers given by the Mirror newspaper. Maybe the abuse was worth it. Could you help us add to this list? Tell us in the comments what job you had as a teen that paid well, or tell us which job you would take from this list. Thanks for watching, and as always, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.